Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb is a game that's pretty much one part Tomb Raider and one part Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's been developed by the same team that did Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the Xbox, and being an Indiana Jones game, it has that sort of exploration, kind of tomb raiding, Lara Croft kind of thing going on. It's kind of surprising that LucasArts hasn't taken the original action archaeologist and turned him into a gaming franchise. Seems like every step of the way they've kind of flubbed it up when they've tried to make an indie action game. And this game is no exception. There's some really amazing stuff to be found in this game, both on the exploration side and, of course, the combat stuff is really fantastic because it's a lot like Buffy the Vampire Slayer was. But it also seems like every step of the way there's a technical problem that gets in the way of these great moments, and in the end it really drags down the experience. The game's pretty short on story, but it definitely does have one. Indiana Jones is out looking for 3 items that will let him get into the Emperor's Tomb, where he can find the Heart of the Dragon, which can be used to control men's minds. Of course, there are a lot of other factions looking for this same item, and that's where the combat comes into play. You'll be decking a lot of Nazis. There's a lot of Chinese guys. You'll be beating up some Chinese gang activity going on, organized crime type stuff. So there's no shortage of guys to beat up, and that's a good thing because the combat system is really totally where it's at in this game. It has that kind of free-flowing, combo-oriented nature that Buffy the Vampire Slayer had, where you'll be able to pick up a lot of stuff, do a lot with the things you have. When you can whip guns out of people's hands, you can wrap your whip around a dude's neck, drag him over, and give him a left hand. And just even the hand-to-hand stuff is really well done. You'll be picking up chairs and table legs and breaking them over people's heads, liquor bottles, throwing them in people's faces, and all the combat is really, really satisfying. Of course, it's also offset by the fact that the camera is really pretty bad. You'll get hit from behind a lot and not even know why you've been hit or where you've been hit from. The camera problems also kind of manifest themselves in the exploration bit of the game. Like games like Tomb Raider, you're going to be jumping around on platforms, grabbing up on platforms, shimmying sideways, lifting yourself up, climbing down things. There's a lot of running around and jumping off stuff. Places where you'll be like whipping onto targets and swinging, on a light from one platform to another. So there's definitely no shortage of cool stuff to do here, and the game's linear level design really kind of makes it easy to figure out where to go next. The graphics and sound in the game are pretty fair. The graphics don't really look all that outstanding. A lot of the textures look pretty bad. They're overused, and the game kind of has a blurry look to it that kind of offsets the cool animation used in things like combat. Some of it looks a little jerky, but for the most part, the game looks pretty nice, but definitely there's some instances where it doesn't look as good as it probably should. There's some spots where you'd be like, there'll be missing textures, so you'll be able to see like through entire rocks. There's also a lot of spots where there's some clipping and collision issues. Stuff like that, little things that really start to add up and make the game look like it's just unfinished. The sound of the game also has its fair share of trouble. For the most part, it sounds okay. Again, nothing terribly broken here. The guy they got to do Indy's voice does a pretty good job of sounding like Harrison Ford. You're not going to mistake him for Harrison Ford, but he definitely conveys the character pretty well. Some of the other characters, like Mei Ying, your Chinese assistant that you kind of run into about halfway through the game, her accent is really horrible, and a lot of the lines in the game are pretty poorly written. The music is also okay. It's kind of that standard, orchestrated indie stuff, the very adventure-y sounding music. Unfortunately, there's a problem with the sound system in the game because randomly the music will just begin to stutter. It happens most often when you die. Basically, the game will kind of iris out to black, and whenever that starts happening, it's not every time, but when that starts happening, more often than not, the music just starts to stutter for no apparent reason. And this will happen just kind of in the middle of the game from time to time as well. Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb has a lot of really great things going for it, and you'll see a lot of potential in it as you play it. But you'll also kind of see the game unravel right before your very eyes. It kind of starts out strong, and then just kind of the bugs get a little worse, and a little worse, and a little worse, and it's just like by the middle of the game, you're just playing something that is almost entirely unplayable. We've even had the game lock up on us a couple of times. We've been using multiple copies of the game and multiple Xboxes to make sure that it's not just our equipment, and the game has problems where it'll just stop for 6 seconds at a time and then start going again. And then one time it just didn't start moving again. It's really disappointing because, like I said, there's a lot of cool stuff in the game that, if LucasArts had given the collective a little more time to, develop the game, maybe another 3 months, another 6 months, this could have been a very, very strong Xbox game. But in the end, it's just a really big missed opportunity, and it's unfortunate that such an unpolished game would pass the quality assurance process and be released.